The coffee shop smelled like burnt espresso and broken dreams, which seemed fitting for a Tuesday morning where I'd already been rejected from 2 job interviews before 10 a.m. I sat in the corner booth of Morningside Café, my laptop open to another dozen applications I couldn't bring myself to fill out, watching the rain trace lazy patterns down the grimy windows. Outside, the city moved with its usual indifferent rhythm. Suits hurrying past with briefcases held over their heads, delivery drivers splashing through puddles, the occasional homeless person huddled under awnings. My checking account had 247.63 in it. Rent was due in 5 days. I'd already sold my TV, my gaming console, and most of my decent clothes. The laptop I was using, a 7-year-old Dell held together by duct tape and prayers, was probably next. I took another sip of my small black coffee, the only thing I could afford on the menu, stretching it out for the third hour so I wouldn't have to go back to my studio apartment and face the stack of overdue bills on my kitchen counter. That's when the man in the expensive suit rushed past my table, phone pressed to his ear, his face red and twisted with barely contained fury. He was the kind of person who looked like money: tailored charcoal suit, Italian leather shoes that probably cost more than my monthly rent, a watch that caught the dim cafe lights and threw them back like captured stars. He shouldered his way through the door without holding it for the elderly woman behind him, leaving a wake of cologne and agitation. I turned back to my laptop screen, about to click on another soul-crushing entry-level position requiring 5 years of experience, when something caught my eye. There, on the floor beside the table he'd just vacated, lay a wallet. Not just any wallet, a sleek black leather thing that screamed wealth and importance. It must have slipped from his pocket in his hurried exit. I glanced around the cafe. The barista was absorbed in her phone, the other patrons buried in their own worlds. The man was already gone, disappeared into the rainy Tuesday chaos outside. I could see him through the window, climbing into the back of a sleek black Mercedes that pulled up the moment he stepped outside. My hand hovered over the wallet. Every practical bone in my body screamed at me to look inside, to see if there was cash. 247.63, 5 days until rent. The math was simple and cruel. But my mother's voice echoed in my head, the same woman who'd raised me alone after Dad left, who'd worked 3 jobs to keep me fed and clothed, who'd taught me that character was what you did when no one was watching. I picked up the wallet and immediately knew it was expensive. The leather was buttery soft, probably cost more than I made in a month back when I had a job. I flipped it open, intending to find an ID so I could figure out how to return it. What I found instead made my breath catch. The wallet was thick with cards. Credit cards with names like Centurion and Palladium that I'd only heard whispered about in reverent tones. Behind them, a driver's license. Jonathan Chen, age 42, address in Meridian Heights, the kind of neighborhood where the doormen wore better suits than I owned. But it wasn't the cards or the ID that made my hands start trembling. It was the papers. Folded neatly behind the card slots were what looked like IOUs, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, each one a small piece of paper with handwritten amounts and signatures. My eyes scanned them in disbelief. $50 million, $120 million, $300 million, says. Some were in different currencies: euros, pounds, yen. But the numbers were all astronomical. Each one bore a different signature, some illegible scrawls, others precise and controlled. Below each signature was a phone number and what looked like a date. My heart hammered against my ribs as I continued flipping through them. There had to be at least 50 of these IOUs, maybe more, stuffed into every available pocket and fold of the wallet. I did some quick mental math and stopped when I reached $1 billion. There was more, much more. This couldn't be real. It had to be some kind of joke, or movie prop, or... But the paper felt genuine, aged. Some of the IOUs were yellowed at the edges, dated years ago. Others looked fresh, dated within the last few weeks. Each one was unique. Different handwriting, different paper stock, different inks. If this was fake, someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to make it convincing. My hands shook as I reached the last pocket of the wallet. Tucked behind everything else was a single piece of paper, different from the IOUs. Heavier stock, cream-colored, with words written in elegant script that looked like they'd been penned with an expensive fountain pen. "Whoever finds this wallet is mine." Below it, in smaller text, "You have made yourself known. They are watching. Do not run. Do not hide. Return what is mine, and your debt will be discussed. Fail, and the consequences will be absolute. You have 24 hours from the moment you read this." At the bottom was a phone number. Nothing else. Ice flooded my veins. My first instinct was to laugh. This had to be some kind of elaborate prank, maybe something viral for social media. But the weight of those IOUs in my hands, the expensive leather, the genuine-looking cards, and that message. The tone wasn't playful or joking. It was cold, transactional, threatening. I looked up, suddenly hyper-aware of every person in the cafe. The man in the corner with the newspaper, was he watching me? The woman by the window with her laptop? Had she been there when I sat down? My paranoia spiked, and I felt exposed, vulnerable. The cafe that had felt like a safe refuge minutes ago now felt like a fishbowl. My phone sat on the table beside my laptop, and before I could talk myself out of it, I pulled out my own wallet, threadbare and held together with a rubber band, and slipped the note with the phone number into it. Then I closed Jonathan Chen's wallet and shoved it into my jacket pocket. The weight of it felt like an anchor. I needed to think. I needed to get out of here. I packed up my laptop with shaking hands, nearly knocking over my cold coffee in the process. The barista didn't look up as I headed for the door. Outside, the rain had intensified, fat drops that soaked through my thin jacket within seconds. I didn't have an umbrella. I'd sold it at the pawn shop 3 weeks ago for $8. The walk back to my apartment building was only 6 blocks. But it felt like 6 miles. Every black car that passed made my heart jump. Every person who walked too close felt like a threat. I kept my hand in my pocket, wrapped around the wallet, as if someone might try to snatch it at any moment. By the time I climbed the 3 flights of stairs to my studio, the elevator had been broken for 2 months. I was soaked to the bone and shivering. I fumbled with my keys, dropped them once, and finally got the door open. The familiar sight of my depressing little apartment had never been more welcome. I locked the door behind me, engaged the deadbolt, and stood there dripping onto the cheap laminate flooring, trying to catch my breath and calm my racing heart. The wallet felt like it was burning a hole through my jacket. I pulled it out and set it on my tiny kitchen counter, staring at it like it might explode. 247.63 in my account, 5 days until rent, and in my possession, a wallet containing what appeared to be IOUs worth over $1 billion, belonging to a man who could afford Mercedes pickups and neighborhoods I'd never be able to visit, with a note that said I was now his, simply for finding it. I should call the police. That was the logical thing to do. But what would I tell them? That I found a wallet full of impossible IOUs and a threatening note? They'd think I was insane or trying to scam someone. And if these IOUs were real, if Jonathan Chen was the kind of person who carried around billion-dollar markers like loose change, then he was also the kind of person who had resources, connections, power. The kind of person who could make problems disappear. I pulled out my phone and stared at it. The note had said 24 hours. It had been maybe 20 minutes since I'd read it. I had time to figure this out. I had to have time. But even as I thought it, my phone buzzed in my hand. A text from an unknown number. "We know you have it. We're coming." My blood turned to ice. I hadn't called anyone, hadn't contacted anyone. How could they possibly know? Unless. I looked around my apartment with new eyes. The walls were thin enough to hear my neighbors' conversations. The window faced the building across the alley, close enough that I could see into their apartments. Had someone been watching my apartment? Following me? Another buzz. Another text. Don't do anything stupid, Marcus Reed. We know where you are. My name. They knew my name. My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I hadn't introduced myself to anyone. Hadn't used a credit card at the cafe. I'd paid cash. But they knew who I was. I moved to the window, staying to the side and carefully peeked through the blinds. The street below was busy with afternoon traffic, people hurrying through the rain. Nothing looked out of place. No suspicious cars idling. No one obviously watching my building. But they knew my name. A third text arrived. Check the wallet again, top right pocket, behind the license. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I grabbed the wallet from the counter, flipped it open with trembling fingers, and felt behind Jonathan Chen's driver's license. There, pressed flat against the leather, was something I'd missed before. Something thin and hard. I pulled it out. A small chip, maybe the size of a grain of rice, embedded in a transparent film. A tracker. Oh God, I whispered to my empty apartment. They'd known the moment I picked it up, the moment I left the cafe. Every step I'd taken, they'd been following me through this tiny piece of technology. I'd walked right into my apartment, shown them exactly where I lived, locked myself in a box with nowhere to run. My phone buzzed again. I looked at the screen through blurred vision, my panic making it hard to focus on the words. You're learning. Good. Now you understand the situation. You have something that belongs to someone very important. He wants it back. You have 23 hours and 34 minutes to return it. Fail, and the consequences will be severe. We'll send instructions soon. Don't leave your apartment. Don't call the police. Don't do anything except wait. We're watching. I sank onto my second-hand couch, the springs creaking under my weight. The wallet sat on the counter, innocent-looking but radioactive. I'd picked it up out of some misguided sense of decency, thinking I'd return it and maybe get a reward, maybe enough to cover rent. Instead, I'd apparently walked into something massive and dangerous, something involving amounts of money I couldn't even conceptualize. The rain continued to hammer against my window. Somewhere in the building, a baby started crying. My neighbor's TV blared through the thin walls, a game show where contestants were winning prizes and hugging each other in celebration. Normal life continuing while mine spiraled into surreal territory. I pulled up my contacts and hovered over my friend Derek's number. Derek worked in finance, understood money and wealthy people. Maybe he could help me make sense of this. But the text had been clear. Don't call anyone. And if they were watching, if they had tracked me here, they'd know if I reached out. My eyes fell on the stack of bills on my counter. Electric bill. Overdue. Internet. About to be shut off. Credit card. Minimum payment missed last month. Student loans. In forbearance for the third time. And underneath it all, the rent notice, cheerfully informing me that I owed $200 in 5 days or I'd be evicted. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was sitting here with a wallet containing IOUs worth over $1 billion while drowning in $10,000 of my own debt. Money that could solve every problem in my life, just sitting there on my counter, and it might as well have been Monopoly money for all the good it did me. Another text. You're thinking about the money. Don't. Those IOUs represent debts owed to Mr. Chen. Very powerful people who failed to pay what they owed. People who made promises they didn't keep. Mr. Chen is a collector. He collects debts. And now, Marcus Reed, you have a debt to him as well. I stared at the message, my mind reeling. A debt? For finding his wallet? That didn't make any sense. Unless the note was literal. Whoever finds this wallet is mine. Not a warning, a contract. By picking up that wallet, by reading that note, I'd somehow entered into an agreement I didn't understand. And these people, whoever they were, considered it binding. My apartment suddenly felt too small, too exposed. I got up and checked the locks again, knowing it was pointless. If these people wanted to get to me, a deadbolt wasn't going to stop them. I moved through my tiny space, checking the bathroom, the closet, under the bed. All empty, all normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. I returned to the couch and picked up the wallet again, studying it more carefully now. The IOUs weren't random. They were organized by date, oldest to newest. The oldest one I could find was dated 7 years ago, $80 million owed by someone named Victoria Hastings. The newest was from 2 weeks ago, $45 million from a David Jung, 53 IOUs in total. I counted them 3 times to be sure. Denominations ranging from $20 million to $500 million. Total value, approximately $2.7 billion. $2.7 billion in debts that people owed to Jonathan Chen. What kind of person carried this around? What kind of business involved billions in handwritten IOUs? This wasn't normal wealth. This was something else entirely. Something that existed in a world I'd only seen in movies, a world of private jets and offshore accounts and deals made in shadowed rooms where the regular rules didn't apply. And I'd stumbled into it by being a good Samaritan. My phone buzzed. I'd lost count of how many texts had come through. This one was different. Instructions. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. you will receive an address. Go there, bring the wallet, come alone. Do not be late. This is your only chance to clear your debt. Mr. Chen is a fair man, but he does not tolerate disrespect. You picked up his property. You will return it personally. After that, your obligation will be assessed. Obligation will be assessed. The words hung in my mind like a threat. What did that mean? What could they possibly want from me? I had nothing. I was worth nothing. My entire net worth was $247.63 and a laptop held together with duct tape. Unless they wanted something else. A favor. A service. Something that someone with nothing to lose might be useful for. The thought made my stomach churn. I looked at the time on my phone, 3:47 p.m. That meant I had roughly 22 hours until the meeting. 22 hours to decide what to do. Run, hide, go to the police, or show up and face whatever waited for me? The rational part of my brain screamed to run. Get out of the city. Throw the wallet in a dumpster and disappear. Change my name. Start over somewhere else. But even as I thought it, I knew it was impossible. I had no money to run with, no car, nowhere to go. And these people, they'd found my name and address within minutes of me picking up the wallet. They had resources I couldn't imagine. If I ran, they'd find me. Another text, as if reading my thoughts. Running would be unwise. We have resources you cannot comprehend. There is nowhere you can go that we cannot find you. Your phone, your credit cards, your social media, every digital footprint you've ever left. We own them all now. Be smart, Marcus. Show up tomorrow. Return what isn't yours. Accept your obligation, or refuse, and learn what happens to people who cross Mr. Chen. I set the phone down before I threw it against the wall. My hands clenched into fists, anger mixing with the fear. This wasn't fair. I'd tried to do the right thing, tried to return someone's lost property, and somehow that made me a target? Made me theirs? The baby in the building was still crying. The game show still blared. Rain still fell. The world continued turning while mine came apart. I got up and paced my small apartment, 3 steps to the window, turn, 3 steps to the door, turn, repeat. My mind raced through scenarios, each one worse than the last. What if I showed up and they killed me? What if this obligation was something illegal, something that would ruin what little remained of my life? What if I refused, and they came after me anyway? The wallet sat on my counter, mocking me with its expensive leather and impossible contents. I walked over to it, picked it up, and almost threw it out the window. Almost. But I couldn't. Because as much as I hated it, as much as I wanted to be free of it, that wallet was now my only bargaining chip. The only thing between me and whatever these people might do if I showed up empty-handed. I opened it again, looking at Jonathan Chen's face on his driver's license. He looked ordinary. Handsome, maybe, in a generic wealthy person way. Short dark hair, clean-shaven, slight smile. Nothing in his expression suggested he was the kind of person who carried billions in IOUs, who had people tracking lost wallets, who could text threats within minutes of someone finding his property. But the address on the license, Meridian Heights, told a different story. That was old money territory. Penthouses and doormen and private elevators. The kind of place where security cameras covered every inch, and visitors had to be approved before they could enter the building. I pulled out my laptop and searched for Jonathan Chen, Meridian Heights. Pages of results flooded my screen. LinkedIn profiles, news articles, society photos. I clicked on the first article, from the business section of the city's major newspaper, dated 3 months ago. Jonathan Chen, CEO of Apex Capital Holdings, closes $800 million deal with Singapore investors. The acquisition marks the third major international expansion for Chen's holdings this year. I clicked another article, this one from a financial magazine. The Mysterious Mr. Chen, How One Man Built a Billion-Dollar Empire Without Ever Granting an Interview. Sources close to Chen describe him as intensely private, ruthlessly efficient, and unfailingly polite. Until you cross him. Jonathan doesn't threaten, one former business partner told us on condition of anonymity. He simply makes things happen. Problems disappear. Opportunities materialize. You either understand the game he's playing, or you become a piece on his board. My hands had gone numb. I was reading about someone who existed in a different stratosphere of wealth and power, someone who dealt in hundreds of millions like I dealt in hundreds, someone who had the resources to track me, threaten me, and presumably do much worse if I didn't comply. I clicked on the Images tab. Dozens of photos of Jonathan Chen at various events, charity galas, business conferences, ribbon cuttings. Always in an expensive suit, always with that slight smile, always surrounded by other wealthy, powerful-looking people. In one photo, he was shaking hands with the mayor. In another, he stood beside a senator I recognized from the news. This was who I'd accidentally indebted myself to. A man who had politicians and billionaires in his social circle. A man who carried IOUs like some people carried business cards. A man who now owned me. The weight of it pressed down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I closed the laptop and sat in the growing darkness of my apartment, not bothering to turn on the lights. The rain had finally stopped, leaving the city washed clean and glistening under the streetlights outside my window. My phone sat silent now. No more texts. They'd said their piece. Now they were waiting, confident that I'd do exactly what they expected. Because what other choice did I have? I thought about my mother, wondered what she'd think of the situation I'd gotten myself into. She'd always told me to do the right thing, to be honest, to help others when I could. And look where that had gotten me. Trapped in my apartment, threatened by billionaires, waiting for instructions like a puppet on strings I couldn't see. The unfairness of it all burned in my gut. I'd lost my job through no fault of my own. The company had downsized, cutting half the staff. I'd been drowning in debt trying to pay off student loans for a degree that seemed increasingly worthless. I'd been doing everything right, or trying to, and the universe kept punishing me for it. And now this. The ultimate cosmic joke. Pick up a wallet out of kindness, get enslaved to a billionaire. I must have sat there for hours, because when I finally looked at my phone again, it was past midnight. No new messages. Just the time glowing at me from the screen. 12:23 a.m. In less than 14 hours, I'd receive an address. In less than 14 hours, I'd have to decide whether to show up or run. But deep down, I already knew what I'd do. I'd show up. Because running required resources I didn't have, and courage I wasn't sure I possessed. Because the alternative, being hunted by people with unlimited resources, was somehow more terrifying than facing whatever waited for me at that address. I finally got up and moved to my bed, not bothering to change out of my still damp clothes. I lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the building settling around me. Someone's footsteps above me, a door closing down the hall, the building's old pipes groaning. Normal sounds. A normal night. Except nothing was normal anymore. The wallet sat on my kitchen counter, and even though I couldn't see it in the darkness, I could feel its presence, feel the weight of those IOUs, feel the invisible chains that had wrapped around me the moment I'd picked it up. Whoever finds this wallet is mine. I'd found it. And now, apparently, I was his. Sleep, when it finally came, was fittered with dreams of drowning in paper IOUs, each one bearing my name and an amount I could never hope to pay. In the dreams, Jonathan Chen stood on the shore, watching with that slight smile, while I sank deeper and deeper into an ocean of debt that wasn't mine, but had somehow become my responsibility. I woke to my phone buzzing at exactly 2 p.m. the next day, right on schedule. No earlier warning, no preamble, just an address. Apex Tower, Suite 7000 Tolerant, 2:30 p.m. Don't be late. Apex Tower. Jonathan Chen's building, the headquarters of his empire. Of course. I had 30 minutes. I grabbed the wallet, checked that all the IOUs were still inside, and headed for the door. My hand was on the knob when I paused, turned back, and grabbed the note with the phone number from my own wallet. I wasn't sure why. Some instinct told me I might need it. Then I opened the door and stepped out into the afternoon light, leaving my tiny apartment behind. As I descended the stairs, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking towards something that would change everything. That the person who returned to this apartment, if I returned at all, would be fundamentally different from the person leaving it now. The city stretched out before me as I hit the street, indifferent to my crisis. People rushed past on their own missions, lost in their own problems. The sun was shining, birds were singing, and somewhere in a tower that scraped the sky, a billionaire was waiting for me to return his property and to discuss my obligation. I started walking toward the subway station, each step feeling heavier than the last. The wallet burned in my jacket pocket. Worth billions, but bringing me nothing except trouble. Ahead of me, somewhere in the forest of skyscrapers downtown, Apex Tower waited. And so did Jonathan Chen. The elevator to the 70th floor moved so smoothly I barely felt it, but my stomach churned anyway. Floor numbers climbed in glowing digits, 50, 60, 70. And then the doors whispered open to reveal a reception area that probably cost more than my entire apartment building. A woman in a crisp suit gestured toward massive oak doors. "Mr. Chen is expecting you." The office beyond was all floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and there, behind a desk that looked carved from a single piece of black marble, sat Jonathan Chen. He looked exactly like his photos, composed, unremarkable, that slight smile playing at his lips. "Mr. Reed," he said, his voice soft, cultured. "Please, sit." I remained standing, pulling the wallet from my jacket with shaking hands. I'm just here to return this. That's all. Of course. He gestured to a chair. But we should talk first. There's nothing to talk about. I found your wallet. I'm returning it. I'm leaving. Chen steepled his fingers. You read the note. That note is insane. I don't owe you anything. I was trying to do the right thing. The right thing. He smiled wider now. How refreshing. Do you know what those IOUs represent, Mr. Reed? Debts. Billions in debts people owe you. Not quite. He stood, moving to the window. They represent second chances. Each person who signed one of those papers made a critical mistake, lost everything, faced ruin. I offered them a way out: capital, connections, opportunities. In exchange, they owe me. Not money, Mr. Reed. Service. When I call, they answer. When I need something, they provide it. It's a system that served me well. My blood ran cold. I'm not signing anything. You already did. The moment you read that note and kept the wallet, you entered the agreement. That's not legally binding. That's insane. Chen turned back to me, his expression unchanged. Legal? He laughed softly. Mr. Reed, I exist far beyond what's legal. Those people? He gestured to the wallet. Senators, CEOs, judges. They all thought they could play my game and walk away. They were wrong. I threw the wallet onto his desk. It landed with a heavy thud. I'm not playing. Take your wallet. Leave me alone. I'm afraid it's not that simple. You see, the note serves a purpose. It identifies those who are... He paused, searching for the word, useful. Someone drowning in debt, desperate, with nothing to lose. Someone who still tries to do the right thing despite their circumstances. That's rare. Valuable. You deliberately left that wallet where I'd find it. At the cafe you visit every Tuesday, where you sit for hours, nursing a single coffee, applying for jobs you'll never get. His smile never wavered. I've been watching you for 3 weeks, Marcus, waiting to see if you'd take the cash in the wallet or try to return it. You chose correctly. The room spun. This entire thing had been a setup, a test. What do you want from me? Your debt is simple. One task. After that, we're even. What task? Chen pressed a button on his desk. The oak doors opened and 2 men in suits entered, wheeling in a silver briefcase. They set it on the desk between us and left without a word. Chen opened it. Inside were stacks of $100 bills, more money than I'd ever seen in my life. $200,000, he said. Enough to clear your debts, pay your rent for a year, start fresh. It's yours. All you have to do is deliver a package for me. Tomorrow. Simple courier work. What's in the package? Does it matter? Yes. Chen studied me for a long moment. Documents. Very sensitive documents that certain people would prefer remain private. You deliver them to an address I'll provide. Nothing illegal. Nothing dangerous. Just discretion. I stared at the money. $200,000. Everything I needed. But my mother's voice echoed in my head again. Character is what you do when no one's watching. And if I refuse? Then you walk out of here with nothing. No money. No help. No second chances. And you'll still owe me, Mr. Reed. That debt doesn't disappear because you're squeamish. You'll come after me. I won't have to. Life will do that for you. Eviction in 5 days. No job prospects. No family to help. You'll come crawling back within a month, desperate, willing to do anything. I can wait. He closed the briefcase. Or you can accept now, fulfill your obligation, and walk away free and clear. The choice is yours. I looked at the money. At Chen's calm face. At the city stretching beyond the windows, full of people just trying to survive. No, I said quietly. Chen's smile finally faded. Excuse me? I said no. I don't care about the note. I don't care about your system. I'm not your errand boy. Keep your money. I turned and walked toward the doors. You're making a mistake, Chen called after me. I stopped at the threshold, looked back. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. The elevator ride down felt longer. My hands were still shaking, but from adrenaline now, not fear. I'd just turned down $200,000 and probably made a powerful enemy. I was still broke, still drowning, still facing eviction. But I'd walked away. When I stepped back onto the street, the sun was setting, painting the city in shades of orange and gold. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Interesting choice, Mr. Reed. Perhaps I was wrong about you. The debt is cleared. Don't expect such generosity again. I deleted the message and started the long walk home, my wallet still held together with a rubber band. My account still at $247.63. But I was free. And somehow, that was worth more than all of Jonathan Chen's billions.